All right.
Oh, thank you.
So my KW.
All right, so access my KW if you can. If not, I'll send out the link to this recorded class. If you were in my class last week for CMA, so the CMA is probably the biggest and most important part of your listing presentation. We're not going to go over that. That's a separate class in and of itself. So if you need a link to that CMA class, let me know and I will get that out to you as well. But just so you're aware, we're not going to go over the CMA at all, but it is the bulk and most important part of your listing presentation. So we have some tools available to us through the MyKW website. And if you're logged in and you click on this marketing section up at the very top here, you'll see right here, the second item is listing presentation template. I don't know if I think this is the most amazing thing in the world, but it is certainly extremely customizable, and there are two ways to customize it once you access it. So if you click on it.
I have a question for a second regarding this. We were in a class a couple of weeks ago with Zach, and the company did a very, very nice presentation for everybody, a little bit gold and white. And you were with me in the class, and also I don't know if you remember. So that's like, but that's something that we can also request by the marketing office.
Oh,
right?
yes. But what we're going to go through is basically what's important and how to customize any listing presentation. So this is a tool that's available for you to use at any time. If you want to get more elaborate or use one that the marketing department has created, you're more than welcome to do so. You can create your own from scratch. We're going to use this sort of as a guide to discuss what's important and what should be included, what can be included. I modify my listing presentation for every single listing appointment that I go on. I remove things, I add things, and every property that I hopefully list, I'm going to have a different marketing plan for. Any ideas why I might have a different marketing plan?
Different location.
Different property, different location, different price point.
Yeah, customized
yes.
to the seller's
right.
wishes.
Right. So one of the things I love to do is I love to have some sort of refreshment lemonade stand or popsicle giveaway or taco stand out in front of my listings for my first open house. But I'm not going to do that at a Hills house. Why? I don't have foot traffic. So just think about those sorts of things, because your listing presentation is your first envoy to your potential listing with your sellers, right? You're going to show them, hopefully, why they should be listing this property with you, what sets you apart, why you're going to work harder, smarter, and better. All right, so we're going to, for our intents and purposes, use this listing presentation template, and we'll talk about some of the information in here. So there are two ways if you're using this to access it. You can first either download it, and if you have Microsoft Publisher and you click this download button, you will get PowerPoint that's completely customizable, including all the graphics and all of that. If you do not have PowerPoint and you are a real estate agent, you should probably get it. But if you can't, you can import this into Google Drive. Everyone that has a Gmail account has a Google Drive. If you don't, you can set one up for free. In Google Drive, what you would do is you would download this document, right? You may not be able to open it on your computer because you don't have Publisher, but what you can do is upload it to Google Slides in Google Documents. Google Drive, excuse me. So Google Drive has different types of documents, and you can upload this presentation into Google Slides, which is their version, their free version of Publisher. All right? So if you read through this, big blue letters, the first thing that it says is please read carefully before using this listing presentation. Why? This listing presentation was created so that any agent across any state could use it. Every state operates very differently in real estate, very differently, to a point where I would be of no help and just a thorn in someone's side if I was trying to help them in another state and vice versa. Even regionally, real estate's a little different. As far as the basic concepts, though, California should be, for the most part, the same. So there's going to be some language on here that I'll point out to you that's not going to apply. And we're not going to read every single line. what we're going to go through is really important, but if you are going to modify and use any listing presentation, the office's, ours, or create your own, reread that. Reread it 3 times, reread it 4 times, show it to other people, make sure it's grammatically correct, make sure it's cohesive. Okay, because this is the impression, your first impression with your potential seller, and it's also your last impression before you actually get a signed document. They may refer back to this after you leave them. And let me tell you something, as an English major, I have an English degree. If I saw grammatical and spelling errors,
Me too.
yeah, I would probably rethink how much I liked that agent, even if my initial intention was to, you know, list with them. Okay, so
I'm that way, and I'm not an English teacher.
and we all make mistakes, but yeah, your printed and usable templates should not have them. All right, so we're gonna skip through this first section. All right, just a little note: compliance. It says a listing presentation must meet the following requirements: inclusion of market center DBA logo. Okay, so there should be a Keller Williams logo and mentioned somewhere, because although you are an independent contractor, your license is hung with your broker, and your broker is responsible for all of your activities. The California Department of Real Estate requires that our brokerage name and brokerage ID are on first point of contact materials. When in doubt, include it. It doesn't hurt to include it. And the requirements for the size of text are the only other thing you need to worry about. That law says that your DRE numbers, and I would include the broker's DRE number in that, need to be at least as large as the smallest text within whatever material you're looking at. So if I have itty bitty writing up here, I can have itty bitty DRE numbers here. However, if I only had very, very large letters, my DRE number would have to be very large. So you can creatively write some cutesy little things in there that would help you to get your DRE numbers small if you need to. All right, so sorry, let me make this smaller here. Yes?
Question.
Yes.
We had the marketing guys talking about the Michael Lewis suite. If we stuck with that font and those sizes, would we be good?
Yes, but I mean, you guys should know this anyhow. This is really important and this is really basic. Include DREs and make sure that the text is as large as the other smallest text on whatever material it is that you're using. What does that mean? It means if I have a size 20, 10, and 14 on my document, that my DRE numbers need to be at least 10, because 10 is the smallest font I have on my document. If it was 9, is someone going to catch it? Probably not. Oh, the other, I'm sorry, this is common sense. It has to actually be readable. So if it's so micro tiny no one can read it, that doesn't qualify either. Okay, so, sorry, view. Let's see. All right, so this would be an example of a first page of your listing presentation. And I would highly recommend binding it in something hardcover, something that can't get spilled on, something that can't get torn easily. And we have some materials here in the office that you can use for that. I think there are some things that you can order. And you can also, I would highly recommend, since KW is so big on helping you to build your own business and brand yourself, investing in some poster quality paper and a few color copies and printing out your front and back sheet. That's going to be obviously the first and last impression in this entire presentation, at least the material part of it. All right, so here you can click on and modify anything you want. So I just typed in LP class, and I can change anything about it that I want. I can make the text smaller, larger. I can change the type of font, right? And all of these things are that way. You can change this photo out with a photo of the home, with a photo of you, your logo, a collage maybe of recent sales or the most impressive sales you have, completely customizable. This is something that you're gonna decide at your own election, and you can change depending on what you're looking at. Yes.
So we have the choice to use this or the microlist. You can use either or.
You can use any listing presentation you want. Any. And so I'm going just through some basics now of what you can use here. What's nice about this is you can access this at home. So if someone calls you up on Friday at 4 p.m. and says, hey, I think I'd like to sell my home. Can you come meet with me on Saturday? Can marketing help you? No. But what you might be able to do is get preemptively, design the listing presentation you want, and have marketing provide it to you in a publisher format like this. So if you understand the basic premise of editing this, you'd be able to basically edit the listing presentation as long as they provide it to you in publisher format. So I highly recommend designing your listing presentation in that format and having marketing, give you some sort of basis to work with. Your options are limitless with this. Yes?
Do you use this or that or a combination of both, or what do you use if I may?
I honestly have a very bare bones listing presentation package. I make it mostly about the CMA and mostly about my marketing plan. Also, I like my stats. I have a whole stats page. Everyone's seen me do this before, but I have never had, except for one escrow, ever fall out of escrow. That was my own deal. Ever.
Sweet. That's awesome.
And that was, I was repping the buyer in bad inspections. I thought he should cancel. But that's an impressive stat. What does anyone have the idea, an idea of what the average percentage is that falls out of escrow?
30+.
About 30%, about 30 to 33%, right? So that's a huge difference for me. Also, I tend to convince, and this is probably not any special gift I have, it's probably the type of clientele that I attract. I have an impressive stat of being able to sell my listings right around list price or slightly over. There have been some that are under, especially with credits after we enter escrow. But the reason for this is mostly my clients are very logical people, probably because I'm a very technical, logical person and I attract those same types of people. So I make my case up front really hard about why competitively pricing your listing is important. So, but those stats work in my favor quite a bit. So my stats page, my marketing plan, and my CMA are basically the bulk of my stuff. I also include my bio, which is on everything. Zillow, KW. I've been in the business in different capacities for 18 years. So, for me, that's something I think can be impressive to clients. Everyone here, has special gifts. And if you don't have something already impressively written up, I would highly recommend that you spend a little money and get a copywriter or a writer, period, to help you design a really impressive bio, especially if you don't have a lot of industry knowledge or experience or time in the business, because you want to set yourself apart and show your clients what your special gifts are. All right, so back to this. Here you can yes? Oh, sorry. Here you can customize client name. I like including my photo, because what if the sellers are interviewing multiple people? I want them to very easily see that this is me and my stuff is a little different. If you have branded yourself with a business name, a DBA, or a fictitious business name, that should also be listed on your listing presentation. All right. So, a little bit here. So this page is sort of like the About Me section I was talking about that was important to me. The woman in this example is talking about how long she's lived in the area, what makes the community special, what else? She is talking about her educational credentials and her value proposition. All right, so I like how she has all three of these things on the same page and it's broken up with a photo. I like to keep it simple and short, right? The listing presentation, you want to get out the information you need to, But the real way to connect with the client is to connect with them, and you need to find out what's important to them about selling their home, why they want to sell, how they want to sell, what that means to them. And if your listing presentation is 100 pages long, you're going to lose them, right? Because this is not about you. This is about them. What you were trying to do with your listing presentation is you're trying to show them why you can help them achieve their goals. All right, so you know, you can modify this if you don't have a huge background in education, higher education. You can focus more on your achievements in business. If you haven't been in the business long, I would search to diversify what your strengths are. And then at the bottom here, bottom right, the simple value proposition, I really like this, right? It's a bullet point of what you can achieve for your client. And these are pretty universal. Most clients want more money, right, for their home. Most of them want to do it faster and easier, right? And least amount of hassle. Least amount of hassle, what does that mean? It means being a really good agent that's prepared, doing things like ordering NHD reports, doing things like checking title, doing things like getting your disclosures done up front. So you can briefly touch on these points just to show them that you know what it takes to get it done. And what I like to say when I'm briefly touching on those points is that I'd really love to bring you an all cash over asking, no contingency offer on our first day on market.
Wow.
Wouldn't you like that?
Yeah.
The only way I can do that is if we put in the work up front. Once the and I'm like, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. Once we sit down for an hour with this package of documents, for the most part, we're done other than inspections and possible negotiations there. But if we have this now, perhaps we can have an all cash, no contingency offer and avoid that section of the transaction entirely. All right, so this page talks about your needs come first. I don't know that I necessarily would include something that takes my clients through all of these questions. This is more a page I'd use maybe for my own brush up to remind myself this is not about me. This is about my client, my potential, my hopeful client, right? And their home. So to touch back to what I was talking about, this is about what they're looking for, what they want. This page more reminds me to focus on them. I get through the basics of what I need to, but the bulk of my appointment beginning and end should be about that client. So when I go to a seller's home for the first time to do a listing presentation, I don't sit down at the table with them with my listing presentation first thing. What I do is I say, hello, please, would you mind showing me your home? I want to ask them what they love about it. I want to ask questions. Oh, did you guys do this work? How long have you been here? What made you decide to buy this home? These are important things that will also help you if you are fortunate enough to get the listing, sell the property. It will also help you to market and position the property in a way that makes your client happy. How many here have had a listing so far? Any of you guys have difficulty with property description or marketing language or last minute changes because your client didn't like it? Hands? I've had it, definitely, right? So this is where you can make sure you can take notes and you can hopefully avoid those things. My recommendation would be that you actually shoot out any description and marketing language you want to use and favorite photos to your client and get approval prior to submitting for any advertisement. But this will help you to sort of hit the points where where they don't think, wow, this agent really doesn't get me or my home, right? Yeah, so let this be your little cheat sheet. All right, clear communication. Once again, this page, to me, if you want to include it in your listing presentation, go for it. But this is more of a reminder to me. At this appointment, or if I get this listing, I want to make sure that my clients know that I'm available to them. I also want them to know that I'm available to them in a way that works for them. So the last transaction I closed, it's a husband and wife and seller on the seller side and husband and wife on the buy side. And both of the husbands worked crazy long hours. And the women one of them didn't work at all, and the other one I think had a really flexible work schedule and it was pretty light. So what did I do? Most of my dealings were with the women, and when it's a really important conversation, the wives conference the husbands in for the phone call to take place, right? I also oftentimes have clients who are like, I can't really talk, I need to text. So texting is fine. However, and I've reiterated this in multiple classes, most of the time a real estate question cannot properly be answered via text. Why? There are a lot of modifying factors you might need to know about prior to being able to answer your client correctly. So what do I do then? Absolutely, but I want to do the best job for you. So if you text me and it's not something that I can easily convey to you, or I can include all of the strategy and options for you, what I'll do is I'll let you know it's not a clear-cut answer. We'll have to discuss a few items beforehand. When's a good time for you to talk? And I'll make sure that I'm available during that time for you that works for you. All right, so set up clear expectations. I would say, you know, there are different schools of thought. There are a lot of agents who like to time block and protect their time. At least with my type of clientele, that does not work. They are looking for nearly instant response from me. They are looking for 8 p.m. response from me, right? The way that I have sort of reconciled that over the years, because let me tell you, when I was first starting out, I didn't care if it was 11 o'clock at night, I was taking those phone calls. When I first started out, that's how it was. So what I learned over time is that the people who are calling at that time, you know, they're worked up or they're concerned about something, I would take the time with them the first few times they called, and then I would start responding via text. Hey, I'm at dinner, or I'm having time with my family. Would you like me to call you after? Is it, you know, is this, I'll be free around 10. Is it okay to call you that late, or would you like me to call you in the morning, right? What they're looking for is that you're available and responsive to them. So you have to very gently train your clients. But, you know, if you lost one commission over not responding to someone in the evening, it'd probably burn a little bit, right? So I don't know that I would necessarily tell my clients I'm not available after a certain time here.
Yeah.
What I would explain to them is that, you know, I try to give all of my time and attention undivided to whoever I'm with, be that family, friend, or client, but that they are always welcome to reach out to me, and I will always, I will always respond to them and follow up on that promise, right? So if it is 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, oh yes, we can talk in the morning, which most people are logical, and when you respond to them, they'll realize they're being a little silly and give you a time that works for them in the morning. Calendar that right away, because the second you don't do it, that's when you lose credibility with your client. Yeah. All right, business by the numbers. So, like I said, this is one of the sheets, some version of it, right, that I love. I absolutely love this sheet. Why? Because I've been in this business for 18 years in many capacities, so I love that. But if you haven't, you can still skew statistics and numbers to your favor. You need to work with them, play with them, and find out what works for you, right? If you work with a great sales price, you might want to put that in there. Let's see, so we have years in business, total clients served. If you're a newer agent, these are not things that you want to have listed, right? Repeat clients. This may be something you want to list. Maybe you've only had 2 clients, but it was the same client. I mean, 100% sounds a little unreal, right? But let's say you have 5 clients and 2 of them are repeat. That's a great stat for you, and it's an honest stat. Let's see, clients served in 2017. I actually think my clients would dislike if I served 40 clients in 2017.
And if you didn't have any clients, then what you want to do in the
we'll continue. We'll go through that. 2018, to help 50 clients find their dream home or sell their property. I don't think my clients care about what my projection is. I would not include this at all, but that's really entirely up to you.
If you're on a team, you could probably put their numbers, right?
Absolutely. And you can skew these words too, right? When you work with, what's Cam's group called?
Encore.
Encore Estates. When you work with Encore Estates, you have combined 42 years of experience, right? You can add those numbers. It's honest.
But office listings.
Yeah, you can put office listings. Be creative, people. Work with these numbers. Find what works for you. Find what looks good. Find what sounds good. I'm around, so if you ever see me and you're like, hey, what do you think of this? I will answer. Any agent, and you know, most people in the office are going to take a second for you and let you know. What are some other ideas? Like I said, I have a really high closing rate, so I love having that stat somewhere. I have a really high percentage of original list price for my closing price, so I liked that to be listed.
And you're not necessarily saying the numbers, right? You're just saying that
percentages.
statement,
Yes.
which is so great because it doesn't matter how little or, I mean, for the new people.
Right. It doesn't
you
matter
don't
how
have
many
that
deals you've had.
combined.
As soon as a percentage works in your favor, it works in your favor.
Exactly.
Right.
That's really smart. Really smart.
All right, so median sales price, probably gonna be a lot higher than this. If not, can you please tell me where your next listing is? I'd like to buy it. In comparison to the market average. So, what it's showing here is that this, example agent sells, her median sales price is higher than the market average. When would this be bad? If you're representing a buyer. But this stat doesn't say, right? So if you're representing a buyer and your buyers are all in multiples going over asking, can you still use this stat? Yes, you can. You can use this stat. And it looks favorable. You're not discerning here whether or not that's listings or sales. And I'm not trying to encourage you to lie. What I'm trying to do is encourage you to look at all the numbers and be creative. Right? Use your numbers to your advantage. Make sure you're being honest. Is it unethical to lie to your clients?
Yes, it is.
It's also illegal and you can lose your license, right? And all sales, whether or not they're on the MLS or off market, they are publicly recorded knowledge. All right? So just a little reminder, if you ever do have a closing, like I had a recent closing where there was a $32,000 credit, it made my sales price look really bad on my listing. So what did I do? Right before I closed, I went into agent remarks and I added that there was a $32,000 credit. Why else? Because it's going to help other agents when they are trying to find value for similar property in the area.
If they read the agent
Can you
remarks.
specify?
If they read the agent remarks, yes?
Did you specify why?
No, I did not specify why. That is private knowledge and none of anyone else's business. But I did want it to accurately reflect. I did also, I'm sure that my seller's neighbors were a lot happier.
So, Christen, you didn't
Yes.
have a price reduction. You just gave them credit on that?
The credit was actually due to a couple of factors. One, I repped both sides.
What size?
Both sides.
Dual representation.
Yeah.
Two, the buyer that I repped was an agent, just not in the state.
Okay.
It was not worth my money or my time, by the way. Don't ever do that. You can, but it ended up backfiring on me. And then also there were some issues that definitely needed correcting that came up during inspections.
Business decision sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes it's a business decision, right? I'd rather make, if I have a listing and I could make 100,000 during dual representation, I'm happy to make 80 instead of just 50 on the seller side, or not actually have an escrow at all. Who knows? So these are all decisions you can make. Just keep in mind that if you do issue credits, you need to get them approved by our brokerage first. That would be Brian Kraft. Kraft. All right, days on market. If you successfully convince your sellers to appropriately price their property, in our market, you should have a pretty decent days on market stat. You can go to CAR website, not just for zip forms, but also to look at California stats. I think it's even broken down by county and city, but if you need more specific stats, who is a fantastic resource to get that kind of info from? Title, they have so much statistical information available regarding days on market, sales prices. I forgot to mention in my CMA class, someone brought it up to me or asked me a question that prompted me last week. If you are having a lot of difficulty comping out property, there may be off-market sales. Even if you're not having difficulty, you should probably contact a title rep if you have enough time prior to starting to compile your CMA to bring in off-market sales, because they do also affect the value of the home that you're trying to estimate the value of.
So,
Yes.
if I can add, some sellers will even also have the option or agree to get an appraisal prior.
Yes, you could definitely do that. I'm not sure if I would though, because if you obtain an appraisal report, you'd be required to provide that to the buyer then. So if you thought it was a safe bet and would help you, great. If not, not so much. And Tamara, how great are appraisers? Some are great, some are really horrible. So if you're going to do a pre-market appraisal, make sure it's someone really good and really local that speaks, English fluently, because it will cause many problems for you if you have a bad appraiser or an inexperienced appraiser.
Then you're obligated to present the appraisal to the buyer.
Yes.
Or the agent.
Any reports that you obtain, any reports that the seller has, any inspections, any knowledge, everything that the seller is aware of. Yes. Anyone else think of something that might be awesome to list here? Any potential stats to list?
Testimonials is another section.
Another
right?
section, yeah.
Just numbers.
Yeah. If you are able to somehow protect credits, that might be a good one to protect, or a good one to project and show. That wouldn't be verifiable anywhere, so you'd have to work up all the math yourself. But if you are able to get your listings into escrow and you are able to keep a median or average price of credits down to a minimum, that might be something that would be important to a seller. May or may not be. I'd probably gauge the type of home and the savviness of the seller before I'd even bring that up. Does anyone know the difference between average and median? Do a little math lesson?
Yes, please.
Algebra?
So what I believe is that it's a difference of what the middle price is versus all the sales divided by the number.
Yes, yeah. So I'll give you a little example. So we all know what an average price is, or an average days on market. You'd take all numbers and you would add them up, divide them by the number of entries that you have. That's of course an average. But a median is, let's say these are our subject numbers, 1, 3, 9, 17, 2. You would literally take them up and put them in numerical order and go to the middle. So the 3 would be my median. My algebra teacher would scold me right now. But I think, that's right. I don't know the terms, but that's how you do a median. So use median or average to your advantage. Play with your numbers, guys. I actually have fun with that kind of stuff. It also will help you when you watch all of those commercials for skincare products, when they tell you that the average person saw a 90% increase in the firmness of their skin over a 30-day period. What's the criteria?
Right.
What's the criteria, right? But my guess is your potential sellers aren't going to be asking what the criteria is. So play with median, play with average, just find numbers that work for you. If you can't find anything, one of the great things about Keller Williams, the way that our company is structured and set up, is all of the number and statistical tracking. You can use our market-centered numbers if that works better for you. If you work with a team, use those numbers. If you have a co-listing agent on something, see what you could compile with them. So just be creative, have fun with it, make sure that you're using numbers that are honest, accurate, but skew them to your advantage. You want to put your best foot forward. Credentials and awards. So if you have any awards in our office, or if you have, I don't know, taken advanced courses in different types of real estate designations, there are a lot of classes available for that type of thing. If you, I sat on the ethics committee at our board, so that's something that I include in my bio, but if it wasn't already in my bio, I would probably include it here. The fact that I teach these classes and I develop training and assessment materials for different real estate staffing firms, I of course put that in there, right? These are all things that set me apart, but each and every one of you has very special things that set you apart. You still work in law, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have legal expertise. Yeah. Tamara, you sold real estate in another country. Each and every one of you has special things. So, you know, it might not be super relative, but it is something that's super special and is going to, you know, really give your clients an advantage or show them, you know, your value proposition of why you are the best fit for them and different. Show them what those advantages are. So I can't create those for you, but I can give you an example. So I started off in escrow, and I ran a development firm, and I did it from startup, ground up, with the Goodson family, which is a very prominent TV production family in the LA area. I worked with Brandon and Rainey Williams. I wouldn't put that in my listing package, but I probably would mention it. I want people to know that my background spans all price ranges. I'm a native. I'm familiar with all areas of LA, and then I've been in this business for a long time in every capacity. So I can preemptively and strategically see problems and read between the lines from other service providers. I know when escrow messed up. I know when the lender's not being honest. I know how to check in with them and coach them in a positive way so that, you know, those other people involved don't become defensive, and so that I can constructively keep us all on track. I know how credits and other, you know, appraisal issues can affect a loan. I know how escrow can forget to send stuff to the lender that might be important and cause a delay in the loan. So, you know, I wouldn't go through all of those examples, but just so you have an idea of the, you know, a lot of the things I could mention if I wanted to or needed to, that's something that sets me apart. But you guys all have your, like I said, own individual things that set you apart.
Self-development.
What's that?
Like communication courses, landmarks, things like that.
Yes.
Maybe.
Whatever it is that makes you specially you. You all know what you're good at. So I would find a way to present that and somehow make it relative to whatever it is you're presenting to your client. Remember, it doesn't really matter how great you are. It matters how great you can do the job for your client. So if you're not taking that skill and somehow making it relevant to how it helps them achieve their goal in their home sale, it's not relevant.
That's great.
Let's see.
These are all part of the template.
Yes, there are so many pages in here. I'll
How
probably.
many pages do you have
What's that?
in your listing presentation?
Oh, me? It's different every time. But mine's pretty minimum. I think I have 10 pages.
That's it?
And then the CMA.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it really simple.
So here's another page. The proof is in your numbers. You know, we've already gone over how you can skew statistics or obtain them, and all the different things that you can call on that you might not otherwise think of to show your value to your client. But remember, once again, it's all relative. If it's not valuable to your client, it's not valuable. All right, portfolio of excellence. So if I have some impressive sales, or I do a lot of off-market stuff, or a lot of stuff in a specific area where I'm going on a listing presentation, I may include this. So I do a lot of work in Brentwood and Kenter Canyon specifically, and I have quite a few off-market sales. So people wouldn't necessarily know that I have such a presence in Kenter Canyon. Why? Because I'm selling them before ever getting to put my name on it. So what I like to do is I like to make sure I include those, because all of a sudden, instead of showing 5 sales in Kenter Canyon in the last year, I can show them 9. And I can also point out if I've represented both buyer and seller. There are a lot of people who, for some reason, want to shop off market prior to going to market. Is that a good idea, guys?
Depends.
Depends. Depends on what they want, right? What is the biggest advantage of going to market?
Price,
yeah.
Exposure.
For the seller.
The more exposure you have,
Exposure.
the better chance you have of getting a higher price. Mm-hmm. Right. I actually do like this sheet, the process. There are a few things here that need to be tweaked a little bit. This is probably good for you as an agent to know also. I don't know if I would necessarily go through all of the steps with a seller at my initial listing presentation. Remember, because I want this to be more about them and their home and their goals than me. All I want them to know is why I'm well suited and able to help them achieve their goals and how, right? Okay, so the process: initial meeting, walkthrough, and needs analysis. Sign the listing agreement, prepare property for sale, staging, photography, etc. So you can mention these things to your client, and if they want to talk about them in depth, they'll let you know. And if they don't, you know, like I said, this is more of a roadmap for those of us who are not super familiar with listing presentations. They can be nerve-wracking. Let me tell you, I was in the business for 12 years before I ever got to go on my own solo, and I was sweating and I bombed it so bad. I bombed it so badly. I had never been more nervous in my life. I had done it a billion times, but never by myself. So do yourself a favor. No matter how experienced you are, sit down and kind of go through it. Organize yourself. Take a minute. The worst thing you can do is spend more time on your makeup, for us ladies, or men, I guess, and show up with 30 seconds to spare, right? You need to show the most confident, collected, calm version of yourself. Why? Selling a home is stressful for your clients. You don't want to add to that stress. I'm a high-strung person, really high-strung, and so that's one of the things I sometimes even skip my coffee if I have a listing presentation that day.
Really?
Because this is second nature to me, right? I talk fast to begin with. I've been in the business so long and I teach a lot that I use industry terms a lot of times instead of like speaking in layman terms for buyers and sellers. So yeah, I'll skip my coffee. Make sure you're on time and prepared and calm. All right, let's see here. Launch a coming soon marketing campaign, establish a competitive price. These are all things that, you know, when you go through your CMA, you're going to kind of talk about. Like I said, just use this as sort of a checklist for yourself. One of the things that when I was reading through here was this top one, begin attorney review. There are a lot of states where attorneys are mandatory in transactions. New York, yeah. Okay. There are a lot of states where they don't have escrow. Attorney is escrow. Okay? Maybe. Every time I have an attorney involved, it's more rough.
But it's different system for us in here.
Yeah.
So that is good.
So should this ever be in anything as far as a timeline or outlining for your clients? No. Can they consult with an attorney if they'd like to? Absolutely. If they're looking for advice outside your scope of expertise, should you refer them to one? Absolutely. Would it be included in what's that? Yeah.
3 names.
Yeah. You should, if you're giving any kind of referral, you should be giving 3 out. Why? Because if you don't and something goes wrong, who is your client going to blame? Well, you referred me to them. All right, so do not have begin attorney review in here. That is not a normal part of our deal. Save yourself some worry. See, negotiate contract, go under contract, facilitate inspection process, negotiate any issues, oversee appraisal. One of the things I always tell my sellers when I go to meet with them for a listing presentation is that I will be there for everything, and I am. If you are not there for inspections or the appraisal, you are not doing your job. Those are the 2 biggest issues that come up in any transaction. How many have had appraisal issues?
Yeah.
How many have had inspection issues? Oh, if I had more hands. If you are not there, you cannot help properly. So when I show up for an appraisal, what am I doing? I am bringing recent comps. What am I especially doing? Well, I told you, I put in private remarks in my recent sale that there was a $32,000 cumulative credit through different means. The reason I put that in there is because I want people to be able to look at that and explain to their clients why this great house sold for less, right? For both the buyer and the seller. Well, that's especially important with appraisers. And let me tell you, most people in the world, I'm sorry, are either lazy or stupid or a combination of both. So if you hand them your comps, what do you think they're going to do? They're probably going to use them.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else do I like to do? I like to ask for their email address and email them directly to them. Why? If I need to reach out to that appraiser in the future, I now have contact info easily available if they have follow-up questions.
Smart.
So when I show them these comps, if I have a skewing comp, I'm not going to exclude it entirely, right? Because what if the appraiser does do their job? What if they are not lazy and they pull up some recent sales and they see, oh, there are 2 that should have been included in this package that I was handed, but they're not.
What else is
They're gonna say what else is missing. This agent's trying to get one over on me. They're gonna toss your package entirely. So I include everything. I call up listing agents if I need to. I call up the buyer's agent if I need to find out why that price was so much higher or so much lower than the rest of the sales in the neighborhood. Really, really important part. You should be doing this for your CMA as well, guys, which is part of your listing package. Let's see. Oh, inspections. I have had inspectors so many times say that something wasn't working when they simply did not know how to operate it. So if you are representing the buyer, do yourself a favor and let your inspectors know, hey, if there's anything you can't figure out, just let me know. We'll ask the listing agent and or seller to let us know. I've had to refute so many issues where the inspector just had no idea what they were talking about, even good ones, right? No one's perfect all the time. So if you're there, you can mitigate those issues and not even have it show up in your inspection report. But if you're not, you cannot.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you privy to that information when the inspector is there? If they have issues with something, do they need to disclose it to you? Or, I mean, sometimes they may not, they may just take their own notes and it's kind of like a...
Usually they're going to bring up any items of note in their summary, but they are people just like the rest of us and they may forget something.
Are you entitled to a copy of that?
Absolutely.
On the spot?
No, they don't always create it on the spot. There are very few inspectors that do.
Right.
And as a buyer's agent and a buyer, you are actually on the hook to provide the inspection report to the seller and listing agent the moment you receive it. How many buyer's agents do that though? They don't. They wait until they send their request for repair. So if I'm your listing agent, I'm handing a business card to your inspectors and I'm asking you to email them direct. Some of them won't, even though really the law says that they should. And I'm okay with that. What I do then is I just ask the listing agent, have you received this inspection report? Where I haven't, or yes, I have. Well, can you please send it over to me? Why? Because I like to review it myself and see if there are any items that the inspector just doesn't know what they're talking about. I discuss it with my client. Also, if there are any glaring issues, like let's say there's mold. There's clearly mold, right? So what can we do? How can I manage my client's expectations and set us all up for success? I might suggest that my seller also have a mold inspector out to take a look, right? Because if they have someone of theirs saying the same thing that the other inspector did, it's a lot easier for them to swallow.
And
Yes.
if you're representing the seller, must you disclose whatever the results of the inspection were to whoever the prospective buyers are?
Oh yes, if you as a seller have a secondary inspection,
from, let's say, a buyer that's
Yes.
out of escrow, must you disclose that to
Yes.
a prospective buyer?
Yes.
Only if they ask?
no.
Everyone?
You need to inspect, you need to hand any existing reports from your seller, reports the seller might still have that they received when they purchased, any prospective buyers or buyers that fell out of escrow, any reports or material fact info that you have or are privy to needs to be disclosed or provided to the other side.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, how about this? What if
sometimes, excuse me, you said you will send it to the seller agent, the reports for inspection. The buyers sometimes they don't want it. That's their property. They paid for it, and they say
that is not the way the law or our contract is written. 100%, the buyer
It's in the contract.
is 100% legally obligated to provide the report to the seller.
Even if they want to cancel the contract
Yes.
for any reason they
Yes.
wish to.
Yes. So if your buyers in your deal where you're representing the seller cancel, you are still liable for obtaining those reports and providing them to any new prospective buyer.
Is this a law for sure?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Christian, who do you use for your inspections?
We'll talk about that after class.
Okay.
So if the inspection is done in the house, the buyer is to give the listing agent the inspection, and then if it falls out, that listing agent is to give any new
Yes.
offers the
Yes.
so that they
Yes.
don't have.
If you want to discuss this more, disclosure class or listing presentation class or RPA class, or not presentation, listing contract, purchase contract, or disclosure class, I discuss these items at length. Let's see here. And I love answering all your questions, but I catch myself getting off topic here. So let's move forward with listing presentation. All right, let's see here. Your custom marketing plan. So this is definitely something I always include in my listing presentations. Why? I'm telling the seller how I'm going to sell their house and why I'm special. And while I'm not willing to share with you all of my special things, we'll talk about some examples of some things that I know that people do. So, and I do this also. It's not that common, but it does set you apart. I, most of the time, am planned well enough in advance to where I can order door hangers that announce and invite neighbors to my first open houses. I generally like to have my first weekend of open houses both Saturday and Sunday. So if it's a flat area, it's more effective and it costs less for you as the agent. But I commit to having 1,000 delivered in a flat area and 500 delivered in a hilly area. To the like a bullseye, sort of like an invitation. And what does this do? I don't know if it sells the home. It may. It gets more people in there, more eyes on it. It gets me tons of exposure, but it makes my open houses off the hook. So even if you don't sell the home or pick up a buyer, you may be able to pick up a new listing. Right? That's something extra. Now you don't have to do the same sorts of things. You don't have to pay the money for the door hangers. Perhaps you are simply delivering a flyer yourself by hand. You know, that's how I did it in the beginning when I had to be more cost effective. What are some other things people do? Yes.
I knew an associate who would go and literally knock on everyone's door, like a couple days before to let them know he's having this big open house on Sunday.
Yep, door knocking, door knock that neighborhood.
Calling.
Yes. Well, I mean, you'd have to have the telephone numbers. Yes.
Something I share with when I used to sell much more, actually, it's rare that it happens now, but letting the seller know that I'll call any agent that sold a home in this past year to let them know of this.
I love that. So he calls agents that have sold a home in the last year in that area. I actually do something very similar. I email agents, both listing and buy side, for anyone who's done a transaction in the area that I have a listing in. And you can skew information within the MLS records to obtain that information. You can call the MLS and ask them how you can do that. But if you came to my CMA class, you would know that you can manipulate the information that you see in your one-line reports. And then there's also an option to export the info, and it comes out in an Excel form. So once it pops out into an Excel, you can copy and paste email addresses and telephone numbers so that you have it all easily in one place.
When is your next CMA report?
Probably not for at least a month. I just did it last week. Yeah, but I do have it online, recorded. So see me after class. I'll show you where to enter your email, and once you are part of my email list, you'll start receiving all of my Friday classes. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so your custom marketing plan. What are some more common things people do? Photos, right? Emails, shopping off market, talking about it at our office meeting, networking with other agents, MLS ad, right? Broker Caravan magazine. Maybe maybe LA Times ad. It doesn't cost that much, and it makes your clients feel good. Maybe it's featured on a website somewhere. Once a listing goes into the MLS, it auto-populates to thousands and thousands and thousands of places, all of your competitors' brokerages, everywhere. But your client doesn't know that that's an automatic thing that happens, and technically you pay your board in MLS to provide this service, right? So I let my clients know that once you go live, once you list with me and we go live, that your listing is featured on infinite number of websites. I don't go into the fact that that just automatically happens. When I would bring that up is when I'm up against another agent in competition. When they have, especially when I'm Keller Williams, like I used to be part of Hilton and Highland, right? Some big, glamorous, ritzy brokerage. And then, you know, Keller Williams is really highly regarded across the nation, but in Beverly Hills, we get kind of trash talked, right? And there's no reason for that. We have quality people, we have better education than them.
I know.
Why?
I know, what is that?
I don't know, that's a whole other story. But what I let them know is there is nothing that Hilton and Highland is going to give you that my brokerage doesn't give to you. Because let me show you, let me tell you what happens and how that listing gets featured, right?
Yeah, plus
anything that agent can do for you, I do for you.
Yeah, we have control of Zillow. Nobody else does, right?
Right. But I mean, that's not going to keep it from being broadcast the same way. So when someone comes to me, I had a builder once say, I can't list it with you. Your brokerage is really small. I said to him, excuse me? He's like, well, it can't. There's no way it could compete in advertising the same way that other brokerages could.
No.
No, it's not true at all.
It's not true.
So I showed him.
We have 900 offices.
But it
Yeah.
is true, because we have another.
First off, we have
another MLS though.
yeah. Once the listing is launched, it's everywhere. So what could another agent possibly be promising them? Maybe video. I can do video, right?
Will you pay for, like in a big listing, have you ever paid for staging?
I haven't personally paid for staging myself. If I needed to, and I thought after risk assessment that it was a good investment, I would pay for staging. Absolutely. I do oftentimes pay smaller costs up front for my clients. So like I knew the square footage was wrong and there was a permitted addition on my last listing, which we did the CMA on. And so I hired a floor plan company to come out and actually give me the taped square footage so that that liability is off of myself and the seller from stating what the square footage was, but also so that I could advertise that square footage and advertise it appropriately. I knew it was permitted, property records was just wrong, but it was like 300 or 400 square feet, so it made a huge value difference in my list price.
$200, $300, yeah.
It was like $300, yeah. I think it was floor plan visuals.
Yeah.
What else? You know, I don't know, what else have I paid for with my clients? I don't know, you know, you can pay for anything you want with your clients, it's all relative. If, you know, for me, if I was looking at a $3 million house and the client wanted $4 for it and was asking me for some, you know, customized $10,000 video, I don't know if I'd go for that, or I might write into the contract that they reimburse me if we don't close the transaction. That's not an area I want to get in there, you know?
Have you ever written that where they would reimburse?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I had a Hancock Park listing. Would have been the second highest sales price I would have ever listed. But they told me that they're new. I don't even remember.
$4 million.
Oh, the price?
Yeah.
I think like 8, 9. They told me that their neighbor had expressed a lot of interest in purchasing the property. And so they wanted their neighbor excluded if they were going to do a sale that way, and they would do it directly through attorneys. I said, okay, no problem. I have no problem with that. However, I'm going to be spending in the range of $7,000 to shoot video and create marketing materials for your super high-end property because that's what it deserves. So if you would like, if your neighbor purchases the home and I'm excluded, would you mind reimbursing me for those marketing costs? They had no issue with that. And the neighbor did end up buying it, and they did reimburse me.
Wow.
They did. In fact, yeah, they sent me a Mont Blanc pen and some gift certificates on top of it. You know, like, most people are reasonable when they understand that, you know, there's a lot of upfront investment costs. So, you know, flyers, brochures, your standard marketing. But really, here is where you should take the time to highlight you really want to find something special you do. Like those open house invitation door hangers I do. God, it makes my open houses crazy. It also gets me more listings.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do refreshments, or what Christine, the manager or the team leader of, is it Whittier? That was here at our team meeting and spoke. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is it Whittier though?
Whittier or another office, she said that she has the little cart ice cream guy that goes around, passes out invitations in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I remember her.
Yeah, and that it was cost effective, right? You can do things like that that are more cost effective. Find what works for you, that sets you apart. That's what's going to be really, really important. That's the kind of stuff that gets you the listing, right? If you're competent, great, you have a shot. If you're special, you really have a shot. And for those of you who don't have a lot of business and don't have a lot of previous sales, let me tell you how I got my first listing. I was up against a mega agent. I don't even know how I got that appointment, but this is the first listing I signed myself. And I felt a little hesitation, and I just asked the sellers nicely, well, what would make you want to list with such and such name, the other agent, the mega agent, versus me? What are the concerns? I'd like to at least have the opportunity to address them. You know, without being confrontational, find a pleasant way to just say, you know, I want to find out what I can do to do better at my job, to compete with that type of mega agent. And I wouldn't use the term mega agent, of course. Read between the lines here. Don't call another agent. That's not yourself a mega agent. And they told me, well, this person does so much business in the neighborhood. I mean, they've got so many listings. Why wouldn't they do a great job? I said, because they have so many listings. You will be my only listing. You will be 100% primary focus of everything I do every day is to sell your home for the best and highest price. I will be available to you. It will always be me directly. So there's always a way to skew things, guys. Just find your way. And then put it in writing somewhere here. I'm not going to put that I'm a new agent, but some of the things that I said when I first started was that I will be physically present for every single appointment that takes place at this home. And I was. And as I got busier, I started saying I would make sure that every single appointment was attended by me or an agent that I work with that you've met and is familiar with your home. I accommodate, one of my trademarks, I accommodate every single showing request that could possibly take place as long as my seller's okay with it. I can't tell you how many agents in this area, especially in the high end, act like it is a favor to show their listings.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Most sellers don't know that, especially about these mega agents. And without trashing your fellow agents by name, this is a way that you can actually make that point and bring it up and make them aware of the fact that, you know what? Unlike a lot of agents, and I'm not saying all of them, I will make sure that your home is shown every single time there's a request as long as you are able to accommodate it.
That's fabulous.
That is.
Right?
You see, but what happens is that I went to a listing appointment and the owner said that, well, I want to give it to this mega agent because he sold so many in this area and he has so many clients versus you don't. And then my response was that, okay, but you know, his clients can still see it in MLS.
Right.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing.
Get it.
You go.
That agent's got clients, great. Well, if he's an ethical agent, he'll be showing it whether or not you list it with me. And why would you want dual representation? I mean,
that's a good
it can work out well, right? But it's always in your best interest to have an agent that represents only you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and half the times too, if you know, these clients aren't necessarily working solely with that agent as, you know, being their buyer's agent.
That's right. Most off-market buyers will work with whoever finds them the home first that they want.
And it's populated on internet.
But yes, that is never a valid argument. That agent has so many clients for this area. Well, great.
So.
As soon as we list it, he can bring them all in.
Exactly.
Right.
You
exactly.
can contact him.
I'll reach out to him
Right.
personally the second our paperwork is signed.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it.
And that's a great time to introduce a conversation. Well, that may be the case. However, I'm sure he'll still show them if you list with me. But bottom line is, you're going to get the highest price if we go to open market, because whether or not he sells the most in this neighborhood, your buyer can come from anywhere. And you're welcome. The more agents that know about it and the more buyers that see it, the better price for you. So I don't necessarily know that that works to your advantage. All right. Let's see here. Finding your buyer. Sometimes you'll have sellers who are super stuck on an aspect of marketing or positioning in a listing. And positioning, I mean like the verbiage you use or this or that. This page may be helpful if you have a buyer like that. Especially if you're up against like a mega agent or a neighborhood specialist, right? These stats are true and you can find them tons of places. The NAR has a bunch of helpful stats that you can use. So does CAR, and these stats actually come from NAR, but they're 2017, so you're probably gonna wanna update this stuff. But most buyers come from the internet or through a real estate agent. Where does the real estate agent get information about a listing? MLS. Yeah. Yard signs, open house signs. Do you have those? If you don't, get them. And then friend, relative, neighbor. But you know, I've had clients who are like, oh, well, actually one of my former employers, who I won't name, well, blah, 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 does these fancy videos. And I'm like, that's great to get him more listings. But that is not what is going to sell your home. A buyer is probably going to see that video after they see your home, because publicly branded videos are not available to the public. It's against our rules. So they'll be on flyers and other materials, but most of the time the buyer will have, your potential buyer will have already seen your home if that is the case. And you know, I'd bring this up also, it's the internet. You know, do you ever tell your client about a property and then they commit to go and see it? Very rarely, maybe an off market when it's their only option. Even when it's off market, what do they want to see? They want to see photos, they want to see stats. We get those from the internet or from networking, from other agents. So that's what this page can be helpful for, or some version of it. Remember, these are completely customizable, and it's just a guideline to where you might want to start with your presentation. Things you may or may not want to include or modify. All right, custom marketing plan, we've already sort of talked about that, but these are just, I would use this more for my reference, other things that we could discuss with our clients that might help, be that potential staging, all of this other stuff should be in your marketing plan and pretty concise. These are all sort of givens. Let's see, what else? So the price is right. If you are doing a great job with your CMA, you may or may not want to include a page like this. I probably wouldn't use this page. I would actually probably use a page from CAR or NAR about pricing, because it has recent and relative stats, and I think it even gets into nitty-gritty, like certain cities and maybe even niche market areas. So I probably wouldn't use this page, but it's a good prompt. Hey, maybe I want to include some information about how quickly homes sell, and you know, what the relative close price is to list price when it's priced appropriately versus something that's overpriced, sits on market, ultimately sells maybe even lower than what the assessed value, market value is. That's relative though, right? Market value is relative. I just like to use it as a speaking point when my sellers inevitably want to sell their home for more than it is worth. I let them know that I would love to obtain that number for them. And this is not the first thing I say, obviously, but to be concise with you guys, I'm not seeing that our current market stats support that price, and that is what other agents that are representing potential buyers are going to be looking at and using to advise them on offer price. And it's also, even if we found a buyer who just loved it or wasn't aware or thought it was worth the price that we're looking for and willing to pay it, it may not appraise at that price. So what I recommend doing is actually not only pricing at market value, but under. Because when we price under market value, we get a lot of interest, which means we often, don't ever use absolutes, guys. You can't promise what's going to happen. We often see multiple offers, and a lot of times when we have multiple offers, we receive an ultimate accepted sales price higher than what market value is. And when that happens, not only do we get a higher price, if we have appraisal issues, not as big of an issue. Why? Because we probably have a backup offer at that point if we had multiple offers, right? You have insurance policy options most of the time with multiples.
That's good, insurance.
Backup offer, really good thing.
Yeah.
Really good thing for all parties.
Yeah, that is good.
Oh, talks about your open house. I don't think we need to go over what, you putting out yard signs or like, entering an open house in the MLS. Hopefully you guys know to do those things and you're doing them. And I think most buyers and sellers know that. Here is a page plugging Keller Mortgage. This isn't relevant to my seller, and I am trying to keep my listing presentation brief. I love Keller Williams, but I am not plugging Keller Williams secondary services at all with my clients when I meet with them. Go out for a first date, do you ask someone how many children they want? No, right? Maybe on like the 5th date. Maybe you ask them if they want to have children someday in a roundabout way. Let's not scare your potential sellers away. All right, we've already talked about marketing plan. Like I said, a lot of this information is redundant, but it shows you different formats. And you can elaborate more on what you'll do in relation to like those door hangers. I used to work for a group a long time ago that loved a really big fat listing presentation package, which I hated. But I worked for them, so I did what they wanted. And so I would even break down like some of the things I told you I do for listings into like greater detail, like extra steps. Like they wanted me to fill like 3 pages of what they do for their client. I thought that was a little excessive, but you can get into greater detail if you want. I would probably not put a just sold campaign anywhere in my listing package. Why? That has nothing to do with my seller. That's self-promo. And I think most people in our market with our prices are savvy enough people to know that does nothing for them. I'm not talking about myself. I don't want them to think about how this benefits me. I want them to think about how I can benefit them. Your trusted partner. This page is a referral, it's a testimonial page, right? I don't like the way it's set up. I don't like your trusted partner, but I do have amazing Zillow reviews. That is always in my package. All of my client reviews are always in my listing presentation package. And if I have a few clients who are like, please, there's no, I would love to do anything I can for you. And what I do is I ask them if I have a potential listing that I'm up for, if it would be okay if I provided their telephone number as well as their testimonial so that they can be my reference. And I've never actually had a seller check up with my past clients, right? But it's really nice to know that if someone was considering me and did call them, I had that option. So if you have great clients who are willing to talk to a potential seller, even having just one of those is really powerful, right? Because you now in the age of digital everything and public records, it's very easy to verify that I very clearly sold these people's homes. With a Google search, you can probably find out they're not my relative, right? You can see the sales price. You can see that if I really know the sellers that I'm gonna be meeting with for the listing presentation, I might, because I have multiple options, choose a family or a home that I think might remind them of themselves or their own home, right? So I am being a little manipulative in the information I'm giving, but why? Because they may value the opinion of someone that, they feel is like themselves, the law of attraction. So testimonials, amazing. What kind of testimonials could you put in here if you don't have a lot of past sales?
The office.
What's that?
Market center office.
Yeah.
Our team.
Testimonials about our office or our team. Testimonials about you as a person, right? I have a few letters of recommendation from ridiculous things sometimes that are just so amazing, and they really touch me still if I ever look at them. I think if it's a professional reference and it's meaningful enough and you think it would actually add value to your listing presentation package, I'd put it in there. My college professors wrote me letters of recommendation for grad school, and they're fucking phenomenal. When I was a newer agent and younger, I popped a couple of those in there. I wanted them to know like the kind of things that people who assess me think about me. Let's see. I had Vanessa Rosenblum from Pro REA Staffing write me a letter of recommendation. Right? She assesses people to professionally place in real estate support positions. I thought that was a pretty good reference.
Yeah.
I don't need those anymore. Thankfully, I have enough of my clients. But there are ways to find testimonials about you. If you're coming from a different industry, you were an advertising executive. Whatever it is you were doing, if you can find something glowing, I might include it, right? Because being the best agent is not only about how long you've been in the business or your experience, but it's also about the kind of person you are. In fact, I'd say it has more to do with the kind of person that you are than anything else, right? Because we all know zero when we start. But if you are diligent, you work hard, you attend classes, you ask questions. If you know enough to be scared and ask a question, you're probably going to be a decent agent. It's the second that you think you know what you're doing that you're going to run into problems, right? So I think it's totally fine as long as you feel like it fits cohesively into your listing presentation to find some words of recommendation about you. Okay. Let's see here. Any other stats that might be good is like if you ever receive awards in the office, or you're in a top 10, or like I said, I was part of the ethics committee at the board. You can also plug in comments people may have made in relation to those functionalities, or notate the award. Or sometimes I had a very visual client. I knew he was very visual. He was a marketing guy, and so I just took pictures of me like receiving a couple of my awards at my old office, and so I just like put that in the background of one of my listing presentations. I knew he wasn't going to read it, but he'd look through. This shot, I got it. So I don't know if that helped or not, but I knew I wasn't going to read it, so maybe he saw. No idea. And you'll find trial and error what works. But like I said, every listing presentation should be modified for your client. There are going to be times you don't have time, but reread it, pull stuff out, add what's relevant. If nothing else, the CMA is going to always be the most important part of your package. So spend the time on your CMA and making those calls to the agents you need to, or whatever you need to do to make sure that you have an accurate assessment of the value of that home. All right, that is pretty much it as far as the listing presentation. Is there anything anyone else thinks is important or that they include that might be helpful? No?
That's great.
Good? All right. You're very welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome. Remember to come and get on my email list.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be.
That
on
was
the email
fantastic.
list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not an agent, and